counted with the census. Make sure that you are voting and the census, it runs hand in hand, or you could say walk hand in hand. One works with the other just fine, because once you vote, you're going to put the people in office on your local level, even on the House of Representatives, and then the Senate, and even up to the presidency. And then it trickles back down when you're counted with the census, because that's going to determine who and how your money is being spent. So definitely make sure that you vote November 3rd, and also be counted with the Census Bureau. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome so much. Actually, St. Matthew CME Church, 923 Cedar Heights Drive, we're going to be doing our last Bible study tomorrow evening. It's the Master Life class where we're teaching how to become a disciple of Christ. This is the last class before we go on break, and we definitely do encourage you to come out and be a part. And on Saturday, 8 a.m., men's Bible study. I believe we're going to keep moving that, because again, men always need to be encouraged. So we're going to continue to keep that going through the summer months, and we're just going to show up and have prayer, and again, get a good word in and be encouraged in our homes and around our homes with our families. Amen. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Brian Champion to the show.
What's going on, my brother? How are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I can't complain, brother. I cannot complain. I choose not to complain.
That's all right. That's all right. I apologize for looking down and looking around and looking at my phone, not texting and everything, but I was just trying to find the stream, because I wanted to
tag. Okay.
I wanted to tag, but I didn't find it. So I might have to look again.
Okay.
So,
how about if our producer is able to look and see if that's available? That would be a good thing.
okay. All right. Well, in the meantime, I don't want to, hold us up, and let's rock and roll and go with the show. So,
African American person.
Yeah, but before we go there, you're talking about, your Bible study.
Yes.
This past Sunday, I got a chance to sit in on your worship, where you were preaching from the park, it looked like. But it is special when you're able to still reach out, touch the congregation, and be close, but still have that moment of getting away. So
It just being outside.
It looked relaxing.
Oh wow!
It looked relaxing. It looked fun, and everybody was still engaged through the virtual service. But I did enjoy.
Oh wow! I was very relaxed. I was very relaxed.
All right, all right.
I kind of came on with my shades, and then I took the shades off, and then because again outside, and it was a nice environment. It was a nice breeze, and just wanted to just do something different.
Right.
Kind of shake it up.
I definitely saw it in movement, and I said, hey, that sounds like fun. I said, maybe next Sunday I need to go listen from my patio.
Well, it's amazing because it also gives me an idea, even as we start coming back together during the summer months, is to even have outside services.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Having services outside.
And there's so many different things that people are doing now. They're having services outside now, where short. So everybody gets in their car and they turn to like 88 point something.
Yes.
And then you transmit to that station, and everybody's able to listen to service in their car, but they're still together in fellowship. So everybody's socially distanced. The congregation is together, and so I mean, it's just so many creative ways that we can do things, and that we should be moving to do things. So I'm very thankful for that. And also thank you and others who tuned in last night. I did the preparing for a new normal, using emotional intelligence to prepare for the new normal. We did a webinar, and it was well attended. Even to the fact that I didn't realize this until after it's over and you kind of get the data, that we had someone from Hawaii, and we had someone from France to log in and participate. So I felt blessed that people use their lunchtime. Well, maybe if you're in Hawaii, that's the interesting thing. for the person in Hawaii,
Yes.
it was 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what time it was in France, but I do know that just shows a commitment to being part of the broadcast and so forth. So we're just thankful for all of those of you who participated in that, and we're going to be putting together some more series that we're going to probably try to get ready for the fall. So really looking forward to do that.
We're excited. We're excited about it.
So,
yes,
I thought about our African American person of interest today.
Okay.
And lots going on in the news. I mean, we go from pandemic to the police murders.
Yes.
To the responses to a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement, the street in Washington, D.C., with also that becoming Black Lives Matter Boulevard. We also see building names being changed. But one of the biggest things that I thought was interesting was the banning of the Confederate flag.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
From from the I've never been to a NASCAR event, but I have heard that that's one of the things that people said there's a lot of show of signs with the Confederate flag.
Yes,
a lot of people dress in it, they have it like a tailgate and all, and it's a lot of that. And that banning, I think, has been a significant show of support for Black Lives Matter and for the, what the Confederate flag represents to African Americans. So, but also with every good intention,
yes, sir,
there also seems to be somebody who lives with hate that wants to continue to do something negative.
Yes,
and I was familiar with the story that was in the news last week with Bubba Wallace and how they found a noose in his garage. And NASCAR and some others were saying, oh, it's been there for a year. It had nothing to do with him. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't look right about it. When I think they said something like 1,600 or 1,800 stalls in all NASCAR.
yes.
And of those, there's 11 where the ropes were tied. And the other, 1,600 were just laying on the floor. And of the 11 that were tied, only one was in the noose. And so, and the noose happened to be in the garage assigned to an African American driver.
Yes.
So, I want to believe it was not with ill intent, but the evidence does not lead you to feel comfortable about that.
And even to add just a little bit to the story, some people are saying that some of the drivers are saying that they were just door closers to help them close the garage door.
Right. And it may be, but again, only 11 of them were attached to the garage door in that manner.
Yes.
And of those 11, only one, and that's nationwide.
Yes, sir.
Out of 1,800 garages, or 1,600, I can't remember the exact number, but that's not even 1%. So, you can try to create a narrative, but for me, the narrative doesn't fit. But we just want to, recognize it, and we're thankful that there was a lot of shows of support for Bubba Wallace by his team and others who were engaging him and dealt with the fact that they didn't feel that it was right, and also even some feeling that it wasn't handled. But, we look at race car, NASCAR, somewhat almost like we look at hockey. There's not a large African American presence in hockey. There's not a large African American presence in NASCAR.
Okay.
And so when you have that lack of presence, you also have individuals who believe that they have rights to act the way they want to act. And to treat people the way they want to treat them because we're not present. But, NASCAR and the race car industry is not a new thing for African Americans. And so that's why today I selected Wendell Oliver Scott as the African American person of interest, who was an American stock car race driver, born in 1921 and passed away in 1990. He was born in Danville, Virginia, and he grew up in a town that was a tobacco town. It was also a town where the factories, and there was a lot of factory workers. And at a young age, he made a commitment to himself that he wasn't going to work in the factories. He was going to do something different. He was going to be an entrepreneur and work for himself. And that was his intent. And he actually dropped out of high school. And after dropping out of high school, he became a taxi cab driver. And he served in the segregated army during World War II as a mechanic. After the war, he ran his own auto repair shop, and he was running illegal moonshine, whiskey, you know, as a way of also making money. Like a lot of race drivers at that time, that was kind of like almost a career that led to NASCAR. Because when you're building, as he was, building fast cars in his mechanic shop and outrunning police, you know, that kind of began to develop the skills needed to run the race in NASCAR. And I say this is interesting because when in history, it shows that a lot or many of those bootleggers and runners were in the NASCAR. So that's kind of why you also see that industry being from those towns in which you see like you know, whiskey and liquor and things of that nature that are distilled. But as I said, that led to his career as a stock car driver, and he was one of the first. In 1953, he attained his NASCAR license, and he was the first individual to receive that. And he also was not the first in this, but in 1961 was his Grand National debut, and that's the highest level of NASCAR. In 1963, he won the Speedway Park in Jacksonville, Florida, and that was he became the first African American to win in the NASCAR industry. In 2015, he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame after his death. He also, after his death in 1999, was entered into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015. In 2015, 5 years ago.
That was all right.
He was the first African American ever inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I'm just going to close on this one note as I say this, and we recognize him for what he did. I Googled today first African American. So there was a list of different individuals who were the first African American to do something. There were 6 individuals in 2019 who became the first African American to do something. And to have that honor. And when you think about a nation who has a long history that we do, and African Americans' contribution, it should not be a point in time where we're still finding people becoming the first African American or the first woman or the first minority to have the opportunity to hold things. So I hope that soon we'll be recognizing people for their honor, but we won't be recognizing them as the first. But today we do recognize Wendell Oliver Scott as the first African American NASCAR driver to win a NASCAR event. and also the first African American to be placed in the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
That's what I mean. And let me tell you something, down there in Danville, they go crazy over Wendell Scott's name, okay? They recognize and they really celebrate him down there in Danville, definitely.
About the movie.
Oh, well, you want to mention about the movie?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, well, the movie, Richard Pryor played Wendell Scott in that, he portrayed him in that movie, which was a really good movie. And it was Grease Lightning.
Yeah.
Our producer said it was Grease Lightning, and it was a real, very good movie, actually, even during that time period. So, shout out and good shout out to Wendell Scott and the Scott family. Amen for the contribution. Great contribution. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get right into the show for this evening, and it is skills every 18-year-old should have, according to Stanford. Stanford. That's skills every 18-year-old should have. This is according to a Stanford study. So, but we're going to be talking about some of these skills. So I'm going to pass the baton to Dr. Champion, and he's going to kick us off with communication.
Okay, and it's something that's very important. I mean, as we look at leaving legacies to our children and also to prepare them for success. And we were just kind of talking through this last week a little bit. It came up how we, as parents, want to protect our children. But at the same time, we want to ensure that they're able to handle their business and to be able to be self-supporting, productive citizens, good parents, good fathers, good mothers, good neighbors. And so there's certain skills that they shouldn't have to wait to adulthood to learn. The Bible says to train up a child in the way that he should go, and that he will not stray far away from that. And that's the investment that we make in our child. That's the investment that we do through mentoring, but also in many cultures, it's the investment that's made when you have rites of passage. And some of these skills are skills that we should have as a checklist on our daily list as we are raising our children to ensure that they are able to be successful and to be outstanding citizens. We've talked a little bit too about Don Williams and his Unity Christian Fellowship and some of the things that they do with young men. And one of the things I've enjoyed about when I've gone to the conference, he teaches them some basic skills that are important for young black men, and how to look someone in the eye when you speak to them, how to give a nice firm handshake, how to tie a tie. All of these things are very important because they represent image. And so what we recognize and what we have to instill in our young people as adults is that it's very important to be able to communicate your brand, to be able to communicate the person that you want to be and be seen in the light that you want to be seen. So you have to, again, begin to develop and put together your own narrative. And communication is very, very important to that. We teach kids early in life, don't talk to strangers, because it's a safety piece. But at the same time, we reach a point in a child's life where they have to learn how to interact with strangers. How, the statement we used to often hear is you only get one time to make a first impression. Many people, psychologists have said that many people make a decision on how they feel about you or what they think about you within the first 30 seconds, within the first 30 words that they hear. come out of your mouth, with how you look, how you smell. All of these things will determine how they feel about you. And so because they make those decisions early, it's very important to communicate early those messages that you want to be seen as.
But we also have to teach our kids early. When I first moved down here, and it was just myself and my daughter, especially when I got my first place, it was very important that she knew who lived around us. Should, God forbid, and thankfully it didn't, something happen to me. So she would need to know where to go and how to communicate. So it's something you agree we have to start very early?
Yes, yes. I totally agree.
Waiting until people turn 18 or get in their teenage.
No, because, and this is one of the things I'll say I feel about the church and being raised in the church, was that there were certain things that I learned very early as it related to communication, as it related to how to interact with people, how to speak in public. And as I have a 13-year-old daughter now, I see certain things that I've never really intended to teach her as a lesson, but because she's been around certain things, she picks it up naturally. So I've watched her and other young people in the church who learn these lessons on communicating, on how to respond, how to be able to, defend themselves. And what I've also seen in the workplace as an adult, there are individuals who have challenges when it comes to being able to communicate a message, being able to speak up for themselves, being able to say something in a way that's clear and concise. And all of those things become very important, because without it, again, we set our young people up for delayed success at best, and maybe a lack of success if they don't learn the skills as an adult.
Absolutely agree. And also, even in the tone in which they communicate, with inflections and knowing how even when they may respond differently in different settings,
Right.
to get different responses. And I believe that is so key.
Right, and you're right, because again, you learn in certain settings what's appropriate. So, like they say, use your outside voice. Or they say, don't come in here with your outside voice.
Yes.
Understanding
Yes.
those things, understanding that you don't talk to your parents the same way you talk to your peers, or you don't talk to any adult or person in authority in that way. And sometimes when individuals don't understand that, they find themselves in conflict that may be unnecessary, because they possibly could have dealt with it in a different way.
I think, again, when we start talking about effective communication, many times our young people don't know how to communicate, and so therefore they don't know how to confront a challenge they may be facing. And so it's like they'll go away angry or angrily because they did not know how to confront the challenge because of lack of communication, and so therefore no correction was ever given, because that's I've seen that played out in many occasions. They'll just tear off and just say never mind, just and leave it alone, but it just festers.
Right.
And so if they don't understand how to effectively communicate, they'll never confront, therefore never, that adds to a stress in their life as well.
I agree, totally.
So,
You mind if we skip around a little bit?
sure, quick.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
I know we got them in a particular order, but I just, I also know sometimes we don't get to the end. So I wanted to talk about this one. Problem solving and decision making skills are very important.
Yeah.
And they go well with communication.
Yes, and
It's all.
but also oftentimes, again, as we try to protect our children, we make decisions for them.
Yes.
Rather than allowing them to make their own decisions,
Yes.
rather than allowing them to make mistakes and whatever. And you can be supportive without being, what do they call it?
Helicopter mom.
Helicopter parents. I'm going to call them helicopter parents. I'm not going to put that on mom. You know, and if I said that, she said that.
Yeah.
Everybody, she said that. If I said that, all of a sudden, there would be a new protest out here.
Yes.
But it's very important that you don't do it, because all of a sudden you get to a point where you are faced with making decisions, and you're not ready. And I kind of laugh at myself, because I don't think my parents were overbearing or anything like that. I actually believe they gave me a lot of decision-making power, and I probably made a lot of bad decisions because of it. But also, it was through some of that I kind of like now say, I would never do that to my daughter. Because there was certain things like I tell people, don't send your child to college without going with them. You know, and you know, it used to be like that. You know, they used to put you on a bus or whatever and send you off to school. But nowadays, it's a little bit more complex than the average 18-year-old can handle. So even though you teach them problem solving and decision-making skills, you got to still do it appropriately. Don't just give them the keys.
Well, that was my brother. We're in Connecticut. He went to North Carolina A&T. My mother drove him down to D.C. because we had family. And my mom grew up here till she was 10, and he had to catch a bus the rest of the way to Greensboro, North Carolina. And like you said, this is a kid from the north coming home to the south, which was very different in the 80s.
You know, and I tell you, I mean, that was my story. So my parents sent me to school, and they were in New Jersey, and I went to Howard, and we had a home here, so that wasn't the problem. I had a place to stay. Lord knows, I don't know what would have happened if I had to go find housing. But they sent me to school, and this is in a computer and registered from home for your classes. You go and see a counselor, and you and the counselor, that takes about a half a day. And the counselor signs off on your paper. And then you go stand in line. For 2 days, I stood in the line. When they closed down that night, they gave everybody a number, so when you came back, you could come back and get in line with that number.
Right in that same space, that's right.
So for 2 days, I stood out in a hot DC August sun. I got to the thing, and they get to the thing, they start putting it in, and all 6 classes were closed. And I picked up my sheet of paper, I said, thank you. And I started walking off the list, hey, come back here. And I said, what's wrong? I'm looking down, I think I left something. She said, don't you want to take something else? And I said, you mean I can? And she says, yeah. So she said, let me help you find some more classes. Yes. So we found classes and everything. But you know what? And I mean, you're going to laugh about this. And this is what happens because I had an 18-year-old mind making some adult decisions. I was going home to call my parents and say, you know, they didn't have any classes for me this year. I got to wait till next year. I mean, that's what I was really
on my way back home.
So that's what I was really on my way to go do. It's like, oh, you know, I was thinking as I was walking down there, I said, I guess I might need to stop by the, you know, Popeyes and see it. Well, not Popeyes, it was churches. There's churches in between walking home from at Holly Farm. I was gonna stop through both of them to see if either one of them were hired. I knew I needed to go do something. But you know, again, one is that decision was too mature for me to make. But we have to give our children the skill set because they're going to be faced with those decisions that will change their lives, that will determine how far they go. And it's just like a bank account. When you put $10 in the bank and you let it get interest for 30 years, if you hold on to that $10 and put that $10 in the bank, 10 years later, it won't be worth nearly the amount it would have been with interest over 30 years.
Yes.
And sometimes our decisions have that same type of compounded impact. Some decisions we make early in life, and I don't want people to think that you can't, come back from a setback, because you can. However, some of these decisions impact your opportunities, and they'll close the door on certain opportunities. And so you're left with a subset of your original choices.
Well, even when you were talking about communicating and knowing how to navigate through certain processes, I couldn't help but think about a lot of times we have not really given our children an opportunity to go through a critical thinking process, how to critically think about certain actions that have reactions or recourses, and to flow through it to come to an intelligent conclusion.
Yes. And and like you said, when you start pairing these things together with decision making, problem solving, communication, you start thinking these things through. That, if I had been rude to the lady, she probably would have let me keep walking. She'd have been like, I don't want him here. No. Those are the things that you got to think about. So when you communicate pleasantries and you communicate well, and again, this person made a decision that poor baby, he needs some help.
That one right there. Tap him on the shoulder. Baby, come on.
He needs some help. That poor baby. And those are the types of things that you have to really consider. Is that when you communicate and develop relationships, they help you through your decision making, your problem solving at the same time.
And just adding to the communication, I'm getting ready to shop Reverend Dr. Green. One of the Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier movies, I can't remember which one it was, but if you remember, there was a scene where it was like a mentoring program, and they were taking the kids out to teach them. And they had one student go in, and he was talking his street talk and everything, and they didn't help him. The next one who went in, which was the guy from What's Happening, Raj, he went in, he had on a tie, a shirt, and a vest, a sweater vest, and he went in and he was very polite to the security guard, and he gave him all the information.
And gave him a light for a cigarette.
Oh.
So you saw that?
I saw the movie. I saw the movie as well.
Was it Let's Do It Again or
Uptown?
No, it wasn't Uptown Saturday Night.
It wasn't
Wasn't that the
Uptown?
one with Jimmy Walker, the boxer?
That's Let's Do It Again. That's the sequel.
Oh,
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you know that movie,
Post it.
Communicate. And I think of this, I was in a line one day, checking in a hotel in New Orleans, and the line was backed up. And you can just see people, the staff is frustrated. So I woke up, it's finally my turn, I've been there for a long time. And I say, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Boy,
piece of the action.
young guy.
I'm sorry.
Big crowd. Yeah. It's been like this all week, So we go and we're talking a little bit. So I asked him, I said, am I eligible for upgrade? Because, I have, gold status. Am I eligible for upgrade and be able to have breakfast in the lounge? So he looks at my account, he says, no, you're gold. That's only for platinum. I said, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? I really like the way you said that. He said,
You handle.
he said, you know what? You're understanding, you're appreciative. He said, you just don't know how many people come in here and try to force me to upgrade you. And so it's sometimes, again, it's about that communication, it's about the pleasantry, about developing, relationship that allow you, and then the rest of the week, every time I went to the lobby and I saw him, I made sure that he saw me waiting, And so, God, I might be back. But I wanted to, that was my way of continuing to say thank you to him and show appreciation. And these are like certain skills that are very important as well, that we cannot act as if we're entitled.
Absolutely.
And there is a certain amount of entitlement that we're raising in our new generation.
Yes.
And so we have to begin to teach them early that people don't owe you nothing.
Yes.
When people are fair with you, they'll do what they think is right by you. But they don't owe it to you, because you have to encourage a person to want to do for you. And so, again, that's all about, how you manage yourself, how you handle, your interaction with someone.
And your response allowed you to receive a piece of the action, which was the name of the movie.
You know the
that
title.
Bill Cosby. Well, I'm gonna say a piece of the action.
Yeah.
So you received an upgrade, a piece of the action.
Right.
So therefore you end up, because again, a lot of times when you start talking about that entitlement, the way we raise and rear our children, some of us today, it gives them a false sense of entitlement. And the response to that gentleman would have been very negative and harsh. As he said, many people even came in at that time, was trying to force his hand.
Right.
But he was like, really just pushed and rejected. But here you come, the kindness, thank you, sir, greatly appreciated. And I digress. And he, still just walking you through.
Right. No.
Because he appreciated your response to his instruction.
And he also affirmed it for me. He let me know why he was willing to do it. So what he was also doing was he was encouraging my behavior to continue to be that way.
Yes.
Because here are the rewards for being a certain way.
Yes.
So you're not entitled to things, but you will earn things. And people will want to do for you when you do certain things. But I just want to give you props also on that segue. That was a segue with steroids, man. That was awesome. How you just kind of work that thing in, man. So you put it together.
And you know what? What really make jokes work are like broken. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. How about let's talk about, and we've kind of been going into this, and I think this would be another segue into one of the other things is when we talk about communication, decision making, problem solving. It's also, how do you handle conflict resolution? I think that's a very important piece. Again, when you're entitled, you don't handle conflict well because you think you're owed something or you believe that you're right. We talked about this a little bit in emotional intelligence, how and many times we're taught to win, someone else has to lose.
Yes.
And the reality is that oftentimes there are win-win. And when we look for the win-win and we look for those opportunities for win-win, and it's not a compromise sometimes, but it's actually a collaboration. And so those are very important skills, because anytime we both win, then the world is better. But when we go into conflict believing that this is a football game and I have to manhandle you to get you on the ground to win, then that approach becomes an approach of abuse. It becomes an approach that just means like, you got me this time, but I'm going to get you. So that's why you see these win streaks. You see these win streaks, they go and whatever, and the team keeps beating them, but eventually somebody got them. Somebody comes back and beats them down. And that's what happens if we don't handle these interpersonal pieces correctly.
And that's really amazing, because even I think over the past 5 years, even teen dating abuse have gone on the rise. Because again, a lot of our teenagers are young. They think that they're supposed to only respond emotionally and never deal with a challenge or issue with using critical thinking. Instead, they're caught into just the emotional of it, and they become violent with one another.
Yeah, and so you're absolutely right. And one thing that is typically the case in conflict is that emotions get involved, because most of us only get in conflict about something that we care about. You know, when we don't care about it, and somebody has a different view or opinion,
Yes.
you're like, okay, whatever. Because I could care less. I'm not emotionally tied to this. I have no skin in the fat. Is that how they say it? Or no skin in the game, or whatever that thing is.
Skin in the fat.
But
That's a new one.
That's
That's a new one.
That's right. Coined and phrased today. So that's right. Y'all put quotes around that and say, Brian Champion, June 30, 2020.
No skin in the fat.
That's right. So, and that's a conflict resolution technique. You know, we're going to define it for individuals.
We're in our next training.
So,
Emotionally charged.
but that's just a reality, though.
Yes.
How it is at times. Because so because you're emotionally attached to something.
Yes.
And again, I'm going to go back to some things we talked about in emotional intelligence. Is how now it's important to handle conflict resolution using empathy. Because when you use empathy and you try to see it from the other person's perspective,
Absolutely.
you still don't have to agree, but you understand the principle in which they're standing on. Or you understand what they're afraid of losing.
Yes.
And sometimes you're able to still get what you want without taking Hey, there's a lot of 50 and 60-year-olds who ain't got that one straight, that conflict resolution part. And so, if we can raise a generation,
because they're trying to win.
Absolutely.
Because it's my way. But again, if you can just empathize, you probably will see that, everyone can win.
Absolutely.
Can walk away.
As I'm saying, and if we can raise a generation of 18-year-olds who have empathy, then we have done a
unfortunately, we know that it don't start at 18, right?
But that's right, you're right. Because if we're working with them, and the thing is, we see it all the time. We see kids that we say, boy, they're so conscious. They're so because they've been exposed to these things without being exposed to hardship. Sometimes people believe you gotta have hardship in order to appreciate certain things. No, you need exposure to it. You need to
That's good.
And share things. And sometimes I was watching. I guess I watch TV a little bit too. Blackish the other day, and the mother. And it was really funny because the mother was sitting down talking to the 13-year-old daughter, and she told her a story. And so she went back and told the husband. She said, I had to go back and share my 13-year-old self.
Wow.
And the embarrassment of my story for us to connect.
Yes.
Now, it was kind of funny because at the end, because she comes back, if you see it, the daughter totally missed the message. The intended message just didn't get across to her. But that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to go back and be vulnerable and willing to place ourselves in a time when we had a different feeling.
Yes.
Sometimes we've grown to certain experiences, but we haven't believed what we believe today all along. That hasn't been what we felt all of our lives. And so we should not expect someone else to just walk in the door believing what we believe, seeing it our way, without being willing and understanding that we have to help them through that transition. And so
I absolutely
that within itself, helps us to get through conflict. I remember, when I was working and I had people, they would have problems on the job, and sometimes, they look at me, you're at this level and whatever, and they say, I did this, and they're feeling bad, and I said, well, let me tell you what I did. And then the thing is that, so now they're not afraid to tell me the next time. Now, I do tell them, I say, we all make mistakes. It's just, that I hope you learn from the mistakes. And, when people continue to make the same mistake over and over and over, then they're not learning from it. But we have to
just keep walking into the wall.
We have to make it where it's not a conflict so that people can grow from experiences where they face opposition.
Yes.
Because it's when we face opposition that we grow.
Yes. I definitely agree. And you hit on a very good point when you said about the exposure. The exposure, it broadens our choices. And the better choices, we can make when we are able to be exposed. And be willing to be exposed. It's okay to come out of this neighborhood and to go to a museum and experience different, have different experiences. I know that's one thing, that's a challenge that a lot of times that, I had, but my mother had, and my father was always like, get out of the regular people and go out and experience life and just go to a museum.
And you're so right, because we're limited by our capacity of understanding.
Yes.
And if we haven't had the opportunity to see more, our capacity is small. So our options, as you say, our options are smaller. And then our choices. So as Bishop Hoyt used to often say, is that people make the best choice they can at that particular time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the reason we make the best choice that because we're dealing with all we got.
That's right.
And so when we haven't been given the ability to handle conflict, when we haven't been given the ability to make good decisions, when we haven't been given the awareness to see different options, then what we do is the best we can.
Yes.
And we have to be understanding to the fact that, now there is a limited amount of people who they believe, they know the right thing to do, but they're going to do something else because they want to take advantage of the situation. But most people are good.
Yeah.
Most people are acting within the capacity that they're given.
Absolutely.
And when we understand that, then we accept the responses from other people and work with them to give them the opportunity to. So again, conflict now becomes a growth opportunity instead of a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Conflict, solution, definitely on point, brother.
Yeah. So which one would you like to do next?
Which one would I like to do? I would like to deal with coping with ups and downs. And oftentimes, again, we're still in that space of conflict resolution, critical thinking, and understanding even your emotions, because you're going up and down, up and down. And again, empathy, being able to empathize with someone. You may not have experienced what they have experienced, but definitely you can empathize. Be willing to come up out of yourself to see another person's perspective, point of view, how they see things. So when coping with up and downs, in myself, to say if in my 18-year-old self coping with up and downs, I dealt with things again differently as opposed to how I address them today. But then it's like, it's my way, it's the highway. So now when I meet a young guy and mentoring, then I understand his perspective and which way he's coming. And that's just reality.
Right.
And I'm able to empathize because, again, as you shared earlier, I'm able to put myself in that place, in my 18-year-old self.
That's so true.
I was a piece of work at 18, so I can understand that, that young man that I'm mentoring is a piece of work. I mean, are we gonna be real? We just gonna sit back and say, okay, I walked around with a halo on my head. Dr. Champion.
Say, I knew you then.
So no, I was gonna say, well, he mentored me in while we were not mentored. He was my chaperone down in New Orleans, Louisiana, and so
He gonna stick to that story, ain't he?
and so no, I'm just saying at that time, and I said, Dr. Champion, I need to go in, and you told me what? What did you show me?
I can't say it on the air. I told you.
He was a good chaperone.
To
Good chaperone.
get your African American self hind parts. But you're right. And these are very important pieces. And coping with ups and downs is rough. They are.
You don't want to be around.
Right, or they don't want to be around you, and so they become secluded and things like that. But going through ups and downs are important. It's like the stock market. Sometimes you don't look at the stock market every day. Well, you shouldn't, because you get caught into went up 2 points, went down 4 points, went up 3 points. You look at it like over a 6-month period. Certain things. I remember Dr. Joseph Neal was handling some money for me, and I lost like 30-something% in about a 6-month piece. And he said, "Let it ride." And I'm like, so I'm thinking about something. Yeah. And so then he goes on and he shares with me. And again, this is him being transparent. So he told me in a dollar amount what 33% meant for him.
Yeah.
You were like,
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
But the point is that today, 20 years later, that money that I put in then is worth about 4 times what it was back then. I let it ride. And that's how we have to do sometimes when we have setbacks, and Jolly says it's a setback, it's a setup for a comeback, because again, you have ups and downs, and you have different things going on, but as long as you stay forward focused and facing the front, and that's the main direction you're going to move in. People are going to push you back, but you're going to continue to walk forward. And those are really important things. So what also becomes important during a time like this is persistence, resilience, tenacity.
Come on.
All of those things that give you the to keep on going through it, And we laughed about this a few weeks ago about the guy who goes out and asks a woman to dance. And she says no, and he asks her sister to dance, and then he asks her mama to dance, whatever. And then finally somebody dances with her. But the bottom line was he wasn't going to let 4 no's stop him from dancing. And sometimes it's our resilience that stops us from doing that. And we're standing against the wall all night, not having any fun. We're not applying for jobs because we didn't get the last one. We're not investing our money. We're not taking risks because we're so afraid of hitting a down. But man, not that you're scared of, like, you're not going to open the door and in a minute. I didn't go that far. But you stand somewhere in the path that they're all going to end up coming.
That State Farm commercial with a baby said, does it bother anybody else that the mom was told you?
That's what it was. And for those watchers and everything who might remember the Ibex Club, and that was my spot. So the Ibex Club, there was on the dance floor area, there was one way to the steps into the restroom. So you could go and you stand right by that hallway before they go into the hallway. So you're still in there where everybody's dancing. So when they come back through, you're like, and they bobbing their head at this song going, they bobbing their head. They say no, and you keep letting them go. But eventually, so now
Somebody going,
yeah, right. And again, because the normal man, so somebody's gonna say yes.
I'm just going to put this out here. I'm sure no young men are standing by the ladies' bathroom door today.
Again, I'm sure they got
He's
that.
not at the IMAX.
Well, no, the IMAX is gone now, so.
But I'm sure they got their tricks. They're standing somewhere. Like some guys used to, that was the whole reason for standing by the bar. And as the women would come and buy drinks, they would have, they were in their position. Oh, you need to, yes, you can stand right there. While they order their drink, how you doing? Everybody had their way of doing things. But again, that's tenacity.
Learning how to handle rejection.
Woo!
Get off my phone!
That's persistence.
Yes.
And actually, that's having an entrepreneurial innovation, because what you do is you learn a method that works for you.
And you incorporate it into your personality,
Right. That's
making it
right.
work for you. Okay, let's go.
What works for somebody else ain't gonna always work for you.
We're going to move past that one. That was
We
kind
all
of,
sit down.
Let's talk about before we leave, and ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna put these all on the site as well. We're gonna put these on in a thread. Money management tips. It is so important that we learn about money management. Money management is necessary even before high school, even while we're in elementary school, junior high school. Learning money management and even learning budgeting at that early age, so that as you continue to grow, you get nothing but better. Nothing but better. Go ahead, Dr. Chapman.
I agree. I mean, I think, my parents, my father in particular, placed some values in my mind early in life that I believe still regulate how I operate today. He said some things about, it wasn't always about how much you made, but how much you spent. So you can get yourself into debt, and you can't make enough money to get yourself out of debt. And so those types of things were very important to me. That not using not charging a lot of things. And so sometimes even now, people will say to me, "Well, you can afford it." I said, "Well, I'm not going to charge it. When I can pay for it in cash is when I'll get it." And I'm not talking about a home or anything like that, But when there's just certain things like that, you're in the store and we impulse buy, and we do those things that we often don't need, or that how many of us have stuff that we don't use, or that after we got it, it wasn't important to us, and we don't want to even go about returning it. And so it's those types of things that were very important. Another thing that was, for me, that was taught to me was tithing. And so I made an early decision in my life to tithe. And then one day the preacher preached the sermon that I heard about the double tithe. And so I thought he meant give 20% to the church. No, what he was saying is you take 10% and give to the church, then you give yourself 10%. Yes, sir. And so I began to then redirect my money on my check every week. It was going into my retirement plan. I would put that extra 10% into the retirement plan. And those types of things that you began to do. And the thing is, when you make these decisions, you make them early. It's just like when you buy a house. At the beginning, the notes are a little hard. But after about 10 years, you think the notes are steal. Because your next door neighbor's paying twice what you pay. And so it's the same thing as when you start putting money away early. When you get raises, the impact that you feel is reduced. And so I found that to be some very important things that my father taught me. And so when I went to work in the government at 18 years old, and actually this is a fake story that I'm going to tell, is that I said I'm going to tithe. And they told me that they were going to bring me on as a summer part-time person. And it was paying minimum wage. And so I had figured out what that 10% was going to be per hour, and that's what I was going to tithe. And then when they were going through my paperwork, they saw that I already had some college credits. And I had enough college credits to not be minimum wage, to be a GS3. And so what happened was, even tithing the 10% of the new amount left me with more than I would have had if I believe that my commitment to God and saying, hey, I'm going to tithe. You know, God found a way. I'm not going to say found a way. God made a way to bless me.
Yes, sir.
And so when we show these commitments of sacrifice, and we have to make them to God, but we also have to make sacrifices to ourselves.
Yes, sir.
In order to have good money management techniques.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you, what's a good feeling? It's a good feeling to pay something off.
Yes,
And it's a good feeling to be able to buy something in cash, to be able to write a check for it.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I think those are things that, and I think it's also a good measuring stick regarding what you need and you don't need. Now, I had to charge to get a new roof on my house. I had to charge that. You know, and I'm not stupid where I'm going to let it rain in the house to save money. So don't misunderstand.
Yes.
Those are necessities and those are needs. But there's so many things, you know, I don't need. You know, I was in Kentucky one time. They had a sale on Harshef and Mark suits. And the sale was so good, I bought every suit my size. Even the ones I thought were ugly. You know, but that's how good the sale was. But I also felt good that I just wrote them a check. Yeah, that's back when people used to write checks in the store. They don't do that no more, do they?
No.
I ain't wrote a check in the store in a long time. I either pay cash or I run that debit or credit or whatever. But you know, those are good feelings when you're able to do that. And my thing is, my point when I say this is that if I didn't have enough money to get all those things, I just would have got fewer. You know, and that's the decision we have to make sometimes. Let's just get what we need, or let's get what we can afford. We don't have to upgrade. We don't have to supersize it. Because we already know what the extra fries and the 2 burgers instead of the 1 burger does to us. That's the same thing. Just like that does something to our physical, that's the same thing that supersizing and getting that extra stuff does to our financial.
I agree.
And just adding with the part where you said about retirement, saving for yourself, kids coming out now, they don't have retirement. They're not going to work somewhere for 30 years if they're in private industry and leave with a pension, because that's not the way anymore. I mean, it's a rare company that still gives a pension. So everyone needs to be mindful because they need to save for a rainy day, for your future.
And they need to understand, like, benefits of a 401k.
Yeah.
That, and you try to, I'm not going to tell you how much to put in your 401k, but I will tell you the minimum you should put in is up to what they match.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because anytime you don't put into what they match, then you are, one, you're not investing in yourself, but you're walking away from money that they're giving. So those are the things, but everyone doesn't understand this. You know, when I started in the government, some people were in the system, and the government automatically puts 1% in. And they weren't putting anything in. And I'm thinking, hey, you can put 10% in, and the government will match it. And they say, I can't afford it. I can't afford to put it in. I said, no, you can't afford not to put it in. And those are the lessons that we have to teach them, so that, after you start working, you buy a new car, and you buy all these fancy clothes and apartments, and you move out from mama and daddy, maybe you need to put that 10% in, and then consider moving out. Because mom and dad may be willing to let you, because that's the other thing. We want these new apartments and stuff, not because we need a new place, but we just want our own. And we can wait a little longer to buy instead of going out here renting. See, these are decisions that we have to teach our children, because when we don't, then again, they find themselves in a place where I would have liked to retire by now, but I still got 10 years on my mortgage because they didn't buy at 25, they bought at 40.
Yeah. Definitely wisdom.
Thank you so much, Dr. Champion, for sharing your pearls of wisdom and your new quote.
Oh, yeah.
What was it again?
It's
Skin in the fat.
yes, you gotta have skin in the fat.
All right.
All right. It'll be on Wikipedia tonight.
Yes, it will be, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, listen, guys, we definitely thank you for tuning in tonight. And remember, this information is going to be within the thread. Definitely, we encourage you to go back and to review it, take a look at it, share it with your children, and increase in their understanding, wisdom, and knowledge and growth. All right, our time is up. We definitely thank you for yours. We thank you so much for tuning in tonight on some challenges and some information that every young person by 18 should know. And we thank you for tuning in. Remember, when good men stand together, we become greater. We are our brother's keeper, and see you on the other side. Greatness. God bless you.